This is going to be a bit of a different video than I normally do. And with the internet being as slow as it is, who knows when it's actually going to be uploaded. This is Thursday, January 25th. This is another message that kind of has been on my heart, but then I also have experienced this type thing before, and I just wanted to remind some of us, or to teach maybe some of y'all that didn't already know this. I keep hearing people say, well, that's never been a problem before. That's never happened before. And they use that as their argument to why we don't need to question authority, for example, or foods, for example, or drugs, for example, or anything. You can almost use anything as an example. Years ago, when I was with my husband, we had horses and raised horses, mainly him, but I knew about horses before I ever met him, and I knew about colic and founder and things like this, and was constantly warning him, please be careful because this, and this can happen. And out of his mouth he'd say, well, it's never happened before. Well, you know what? Nothing ever happens until it does. I've never died before, but I'm going to. Unless there's a rapture, I'm going to. So the argument that some people use that that's never happened before, I'm not going to worry about it. It's not a thing. Even down to my brother today, bless his heart, he had a doctor appointment yesterday for a rash that, not like the one I had for so long, but whenever I started telling him about different things, the doctor said it probably was a chemical reaction to a medication that they put him on. And so I started trying to explain, like I do with anyone who'll listen to me, that there's certain things in foods also, and cleaning supplies, and Riverside Homestead also talks about this. Many channels talk about this. There are things within our foods, and people will mock us that try to warn and say, that's not a big deal. It's a negligible amount. It's less than this. It's an accepted amount of that or this. All right, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. But certain things I've read and I've been told that don't ever leave the body once it goes in. And I'm going to say a couple things, and hopefully they're not no words. Sometimes when you hear people seemingly talking in code or something, they're trying to avoid not being flagged or censored in this, that, and the other. But let me give you an example of just things that I know about that I've read in the past. Little bits of arsenic. There's times that certain amounts of arsenic will be in certain foods or whatever, and it's not a problem until it gets a little more and a little more and a little more. All right, that ingredient that goes, my mind is blank right now, that goes in rat poison and things like that. You can slowly give the arsenic, that may be it, I don't know, but certain chemicals, and I'm not going through the list of things. Some of these people need to learn to think for themselves. It may be a minuscule amount whenever you started eating or using this 10 years ago, but guess what? At a certain period of time, there's enough of whatever it is in your system to basically almost kill a horse. So as you're looking around seeing things happen with people and health issues and things like this, after a while it becomes ignorant to keep saying, well, it's never happened before. No, and it won't until it does. It just won't. And if you wait until it happens, you may already have the cancer. You may already have the disease. You may already have the side effects that cannot be fixed. We also live in a world that it's hard sometimes to know who to trust. And I'm going to mention the year 2020. Take that to mean whatever you think it means to you. But certain things were said out there, and then other groups tried to counter respond and say, no, that's not true, that's not true, that is not scientific, that's not medically proven, yada, yada, yada. You have to read in between the lines here. So one group is saying, no, this is 100% true, and the other group seem to have been censored. They were kicked off of Facebook, they were kicked off of YouTube. It cost them their jobs because they were spreading information that was not true. But was it? This is 4 years later, or almost 4 years, depending on when you started checking some of this out. And let me use 3 words. Well, actually, it's going to be 6 words. The science, the data, the evidence. I believed all of that. I'm 68 years old. I was raised in a time to where you could trust authorities. In fact, we were taught to and shown that we could trust the authorities and the government and this, that, and the other. Maybe even the pharmacies and whatever. You fill in the blanks here. But 2020, and then it proceeded on after that, it was the science and the this and the that. Well, I'm of the era that it wasn't the science, it was science. It wasn't the data, it was data. It wasn't the evidence, as if they were different than real evidence. And I followed this and believed it wholeheartedly until I saw that certain things from the this, that, and the other just seemed to be a lie. Sorry about that. They'll leave a message. And to be honest with you, I'm going to try to interject some humor here because, number one, I'm just childish. We all know that. I'm the most childish old fart that you've ever met, or not met in this case. Until the science, the data, the evidence started sounding more and more like something that Moe, Larry, and Curly would say, the Three Stooges, for those of y'all that are younger. Once it made no sense. It was nonsense. It was something that Moe, Larry, and Curly would say. Then I stopped following the evidence, the science, the data, and started going back to science, data, and evidence. And quit putting a "the" on it or a label on it. Here again, you do you, people. So we're in a world now to who do you trust? And that's a very, very valid question, and it's sometimes hard to know. I'm a Christian. I don't hide that from anybody. My faith is in God. My faith is in Jesus Christ. But you do you. How do you know who to trust today? Well, and yes, I'm coming from a spiritual aspect, but I think you could even take this part of it out and go by, I was taught you trust who have shown was trustworthy. In other words, if someone goes around and says things, but then you find out later that everything they tell you is a lie, it was not true, it wasn't a fact, it wasn't real, then they are no longer trustworthy. And yet we are told today that they are trustworthy. Okay, there's certain things that we get into our arms or that we pop and they're in a pill shape that the doctors prescribe us for different situations. We take this, that, and the other, and we're told it's all good. Then you learn some of these things that are harmful. It wasn't fully disclosed. And then you learn about some of these huge mega companies that have been filed suit against for millions, multi-millions, and I'm thinking even billions of dollars. But yet we're in a position, and they'll settle out of court for millions or billions of dollars rather than let the evidence, real evidence, come out. So, and then the really interesting thing is some of the very people that are pushing this also seem to own the media companies. They own the websites. They own the search engines. So you've got total control of all the information that you feed to people. Once that happens, you kind of have to go back to, I was raised in a time also that taught us to think for ourselves. I don't owe you trust. I owe you a certain amount maybe until you've shown me you weren't trustworthy. Excuse me. And yet we're in a day and a time that these same people that have shown us repeatedly they are not trustworthy are still out in front saying, trust us, take this, pop that, poke this, trust us. And for the greater good. That's another term that has really, really been, sort of bastardized. Trust us. It's a shame. Let me tell you some things in case some of y'all forgot and that some of y'all never knew. Those of us in my era knew that when the soft drink come out called Coca-Cola, at one point there was actually the Co and the cane in it. Put those together, the Co and the cane was actually in there, and they knew that it kind of can addict you. They were later forced to change that. Let me go into another thing, cigarettes. I'm from that time that cigarettes were touted to be really cool. In fact, they would say things that they would get the sexiest cowboy or the most beautiful woman to peddle this out on commercials, and they will say things like it can calm your nerves and yada yada yada, cigarette this, cigarette that. Well, what we didn't know back then, the average man, what we did not know is that certain of their own researchers had come to the heads, the powerful, and said, wait a minute, we're finding some disturbing things here. I think we need to be careful. I think we need to warn things. Well, come to find out, and it's on every cigarette now, every packet of cigarettes may cause cancer. Well, that's wonderful. But let me ask you this. A country that cares, a government that cares, an FDA that's going to care enough to allow products that have carcinogens in them that does cause. Is it going to cause cancer with every person? No, because we're just different. But what kind of government, what kind of agency is going to say, yeah, you can sell it, but you have to do this? And then that same agency will say, but we just care about you. No, if you cared about us, you would stop selling and pimping and pushing things that are killing people, that are making people sick. So I'm just going to kind of leave that. Why do we keep trusting people that has shown, or agencies, organizations, groups, they've shown they are not trustworthy, and yet they still want to treat us like the idiots that we sometimes act like we are. Oh, I trust them. Why? Why? You need to start. There's so much stuff out there that none of us can even totally warn you of, but many wonderful channels are trying to. I'm not going to go into some of the things. At a certain point, you better start thinking for yourself, because one day that thinking for yourself will be removed from your right to do so. And stop trusting everyone that says that they're your friend is not necessarily your friend. Everyone that has a big old smile on their face and seems so jovial and wonderful are not all friendly people. People that claim they're your friend are not always your friend. Sometimes the prettiest smile out there, the most vivacious smile, is covering an evil heart. I don't know how to teach people how to think for themselves and quit believing just everything that you hear. And I know other people that says, oh no, I'm not going to trust any food that's made from this country or that country. Sweethearts, I love each one of y'all, but we're one of the only countries that I know of that you don't even have to scratch through that or peel off that onion layer very far before you see there's too many of us breathing and eating today. So am I going to trust people that out in the open, Illy Bates, can you read through there? Illy Bates and some of these other people that says there's too many people. There's too many people. They come out and say that. Do y'all remember the Georgia Guidestones? Look it up. They're no longer there. Look up some of these messages that talks about the perfect number of breathers, eaters and breathers. What was it, 500 million? So I'm supposed to trust people that come out and say we're doing this for the better good, the greater good, and yet I ultimately already know what your end game is. Some of y'all need to understand it may be for the greater good, but we are not in the greater good. We are the knuckle dragging, mouth breathers, eating, wasting product. We are in that group. We are not in the greater good group. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's where we are. So why would you trust people that has come out and said there's too many of y'all? We need to get the numbers down. And then they manipulate who knows what, as in we're not being shown true numbers of some of the suddenly they're no longer alive kind of numbers. We're not even allowed to question those, and if they are questioning, they're saying, well, we'll get to that in a couple years, but we have another demic coming on. Well, isn't that really convenient? So, the only scriptures that I'm going to read on here is to refer back to well, who are we supposed to trust? How do you know what to think or believe? Well, a good rule of thumb that I was taught is, like I said earlier, trust those that have proven to be trustworthy. It's hard to trust someone when they can make something off of you. In other words, here, if you will drink this every day, you will live longer. And, hey, I happen to sell that product, so why don't you just buy it from me? Or I could be setting you up. Or, hey, take these vitamins, take this, take that, because it will help you. And you own the company. Isn't that a little bit, I don't know, isn't that a little bit shady? I've got the cure, but yet I also own the companies that gave you the thing that my other cure needed to cure you from. I hope you're picking up what I'm trying to lay down, because I'm not as subtle as some. So, a person that has no agenda and that doesn't make money off of you thinking that they are the bee's knees, that they are just trying to help us. They have no ulterior motive. Maybe trust that person a little bit more. Not someone that has the good health pill to sell you, or the good health this, or the good happy so-and-so, and they're selling the product that they're trying to tout to you that you have to have if you want longevity. And this is why I get back around to what I believe. But you do you, boo. Now there's a little bit of scripture alert for those of y'all that want to jump off. I trust someone like John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. I'm a little bit prone to believe a man that loved us so much that he died for us than I am to trust a man that has something to gain from me. Well, that may be the only... I put that darn thing at the wrong place. Oh, no, here it is. Then the other that I want to read is James 1, verse 5 and 6. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. But let him ask in faith, nothing wavering, for he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. For let not that man think that he shall receive anything of the Lord. Learn who you can trust, and the sooner the better, because we are taking things inside of our body that are coming to us from all kinds of directions. We're putting things in our body, on our body. We're cleaning our house with things that are going to harm us. They're going to cause us harm. Learn who you can trust, because, well, I'm going to trust the one that did something and didn't have an ulterior motive. But you do you. And if you're wondering who to trust, you can pray about it. You can do some of your own research. And I've said repeatedly, when you learn how to do things yourself and you find out information yourself, when you make your own money, when you do this and that, you build it yourself, there's so much more trust in it because you know what's in it. You learn this on your own. Stop eating up everything that people are feeding you. Anyway, I'm going to end there. Hopefully I made sense. I don't know. My intentions are always good. But anyhow, love you guys. Take care. Be ready. Be prepared. If you don't learn some of this stuff now, you literally may not have the chance later. I mean, literally. Oh, it's never happened before. It will never happen until it happens. And by that time, for so many people, it is too late. Too late. Love you guys. Jesus loves you. Take care.